you so much for joining me on my program once again. I appreciate you wherever you're joining me from. I say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Accept my greeting according to your time zone. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please kindly subscribe to my channel. Click the notification bell so that you'll be notified each time I upload a video. You can be among the first to receive it. Then go to the comment section at all time. Leave your comment, drop your contribution. If you have suggestions, make it out there. If you have any criticism, put it down on the comment section. It will make us to get better, presenting you a better program. Thank you so much.
After taking account of the aggravating and mitigating factors in your case, I impose a sentence of 9 years and 8 months imprisonment, subject to allowing for the time which you have spent remanded in custody. You will serve 2/3 of the sentence in custody and will be on licence thereafter for the rest of the sentence. You can sit down. Dr. Beatrice Ekramadi, would you stand up? You deliberately targeted a victim who was particularly vulnerable due to his young age, his isolation from his immediate family, and his poverty. After the conspiracy to exploit C was thwarted, you continued to try and find another person to be exploited in the same way. As against that, you have no previous convictions, and you are a person of... And 7 a.m. I specify that the credit period for the purposes of Section 240A of the Criminal Justice Act 2003 is 117 days. So that period shall count towards your sentence. Subject to that, and subject to allowing for the time you have spent remanded in custody, you will serve 1/2 of your sentence in custody. Did not go ahead. I take account of all the mitigating features that Mr. Mahindru KC has identified, and the content of the thorough and helpful pre-sentence report prepared by Jessica Stephen of the Probation Service. You are a person of good character. You helped set up the ECOA Foundation with your husband, and you have been closely involved with its important charitable work. Much of the character evidence I have read applies also to you. You were also motivated by the desperate plight of your daughter and by maternal love. Further, in your case, I accept that although Sonia is an adult, you have substantial caring responsibilities towards her. Your incarcerations. In your case, I adopt a starting point of 6 years custody. I do not consider that the aggravating factors that are present in the case of your co-defendants apply to you. You were not directly involved in the identification of the donor, and the evidence does not show that you were directly involved in the attempts to identify a further donor after the transplantation. Will have a significant impact on her, in that she will no longer be able to rely on your presence as a source of care and support. Having regard to those factors, I impose a sentence of 4 years and 6 months imprisonment. You have spent 234 days on an electronically monitored curfew between 9 p.m. The applicable starting points are custodial sentences of 10 years in the case of Abina Abeta, 10 years and 6 months in the case of Ike Ekramadu, and 6 years in the case of Beatrice Ekramadu. Abina Abeta, stand up please. There are aggravating features in your case. You deliberately targeted a victim who was particularly vulnerable due to his young age, his isolation from his immediate family, and his poverty. After the conspiracy to exploit C was thwarted, you continued to try and find another person to be exploited in the same way. As against that, you have no previous convictions, and you are a person of good character.
Ekweremadu has just been jailed for 9 years and 8 months. He, of course, had 2 co-defendants. There were 3, but we know that Sonia Ekweremadu was found not guilty in March. But his wife, Beatrice, today has been sentenced to 4 years and 6 months in prison, while Obinna Obeta, described as the middleman, has received a 10-year prison term. Now, as to be expected, the entire court gallery was full. We had media from across the spectrum. In fact, something that was only introduced into the British court this year was the fact that the judge's ruling was filmed live on a very popular channel here, Sky News. So the entirety of this country have been following this case. Of course, we know from following this case extensively last few days, Laddie, where we have had a significant number of letters of clemency. This was spoken of by the defense lawyer. And in fact, the judge did actually say one of the reasons why he reduced the sentence for the senator was because of those letters. He received 51 in total, including from the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, describing Ekweremadu as a good man, a decent man, a lawyer of significance, somebody who spent a long time at the top of politics. His fall from grace couldn't be any more glaring or any more significant. And he said he took that into consideration and reduced his sentence. But he said, and disagreeing with what the statements were from the defense team, that he knew all along what he was doing, considering he was so intelligent, was so fundamental to the birthing of democracy in Nigeria and, in fact, ECOWAS. And he himself, he said, was part of drafting the piece of legislature which actually made this human trafficking illegal in Nigeria. So he said he knew what he was doing, he was culpable, and he had no option but to give him this 9 years and 8 months sentence. And now, as has been described and as we know, this is not a normal case. In fact, this is a landmark trial in the UK. Nobody in this country has ever been charged and prosecuted and convicted of Section 2 of the Modern Slavery Act of 2015, and that the intent, and let's talk about the intent was, of course, to save the life of their daughter, Sonia. Sonia, of course, was in court today. I sat beside her during the proceedings. I saw her and spoke to her briefly after the ruling. She was absolutely devastated. In fact, both the prosecution lawyer, Casey Hugh Davis, as well as the judge, did say everybody, not just parents, but everybody following the case, do have some sympathy for her. And in fact, the defense lawyer, Laddie, did ask the court to perhaps suspend the sentence of her mother, Beatrice, because, of course, this costs, in terms of her kidney dialysis, a significant amount of money. And with both parents being in jail, how would they be able to afford it? The defense lawyer for Beatrice Ekweremadu pleaded for a suspended sentence. That obviously hasn't happened. She's been sentenced to 4 years and 6 months in prison. I'm sure we've got our producers going now through the time they've spent in custody, because, of course, they've spent a significant amount of time in custody. This is going to be taken into account. So with the 4 years and 6 months, for example, that Beatrice got, and because of the laws in this country, she will spend half of that sentence in prison and the rest on license, where you're tagged and you have a curfew, and of course taken into account the 100 or so days that they've been in court. I've got to tell you, it was very dramatic, very tense at times. Laddie, as you know, Channels Television in London has been covering the entirety of the case, including when it first came into the public domain in the summer of last year. I've got to tell you, looking at the senator today, he did look like a broken man. He's clearly lost a significant amount of weight. He is not sleeping. There was a large cohort of delegation of senators and House of Representatives that have flown in. I did speak to a few of them on record, and I can tell you for a fact that the senator is suffering from significant mental health issues. I won't go into the details of it, but they are very afraid of him trying to take his own life. That is how serious this is. I did speak to the Sunrise team this morning. I was asked whether or not the letters and the pleading of clemency would be taken into account. I wasn't sure of that, but it did make a difference. The judge said in his summary that he read each and every individual of those 51 letters, and he did say about all three of the defendants that they were of good character, and that this is an isolated case and it is landmark in its fruition. So yes, just to re-emphasize the breaking news that's just happened just less than 30 minutes ago. The former Deputy Senate President, just a couple of years ago, one of the most powerful men, not just in Nigeria, but across Africa, Ike Ekweremadu, has been jailed today at the Old Bailey for 9 years and 8 months. His wife, Beatrice, has been sentenced to 4 years and 6 months in prison, while Dr. Obinna Obeta, the middleman in this case, has been sentenced to 10 years.
Juliana, thank you very much for your reporting and for your continuous coverage of this story. It's breaking news out of London, and we'll keep tabs on it. But before you go, perhaps I can just ask you about, are there any options of appeal available to the senator and his wife?
I absolutely believe so, Laddie, and I think just for the fact that this is a landmark case in the United Kingdom, I think anybody that's been following news about the issues the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister have been having about cross-channel trafficking and the issue that they have of human traffickers getting people into this country, that's a huge issue. In fact, if we go and listen, or if I reflect back to some of the details that the defense lawyer of Beatrice was saying, he was using cases as examples of individuals, human traffickers, who fall under the Modern Slavery Act of raping women, bringing women into this country where they are subject to horrendous conditions, years of solitude, financial deprivation. This is not the case in this trial. This is a case of a victim of circumstance. Certainly, a crime has been committed here, but does the senator and does this conspiracy warrant over 10 years in prison, or up to 10 years in prison? Another significant factor, which I should mention, is the victim who, just to be clear and just to make it clear for our channel, still cannot be named for legal reasons. There is a reporting restriction on this individual's name. He was shown to be a liar. He lied on several occasions. We were shown 2 pieces of crucial evidence where he handed himself into police on the 5th of May. So in fact, as time would have it, exactly a year ago today, this victim handed himself into police. He lied to police, saying that he was 15 years old, that he had no family, that his parents died when he was very young. We know that's not the case anymore. He also lied on a second occasion to police. We saw that video evidence. Is this individual somebody of good character? Well, that's something for the defense lawyers to try and appeal in court. Certainly, there will be an appeal. There is outrage, not just from the delegation that flew in, but from those who believe that the intent was never evil and the fact that the act wasn't taken out. So yes, this is it's a case that has stirred plenty of emotion, not least from those in the public gallery, but also the defense lawyers and including the judge, who, like I said in his ruling, did say that the senator is a man of good character. Just very briefly as well, Laddie, just to mention in terms of appeal, can the senator afford to appeal this case? He has spent a ridiculous amount of money on his legal counsel, not only for himself, but of course for his wife and Sonia, trying to undergo private medical care in this country costs a significant amount of money. We know that there are several parts of his fortune that have been seized or under question by the EFCC that were mentioned several times during court. In fact, his own lawyer did say that he's upwards of £1 million in debt, and that to fund this case he has had to borrow money left, right and centre. So it's obvious to presume that yes, of course they would be appealing this ruling, but can the senator afford it? Another question for the Nigerian government is, was it too little too late? Should these pleas of clemency have arrived before the new year, Laddie? Why was it at the last stage that we did start seeing these letters? In fact, I think the most significant letter we saw at the beginning was from the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo. The judge said he took this into account. Perhaps this information was to have got to the Crown Prosecution Service prior to the case going to court. We could have been in a different situation. But again, to reiterate the breaking news from the top of the hour, the senator has been jailed for 9 years and 8 months. Beatrice Ekweremadu has been jailed for 4 years and 6 months. And Obinna Obeta, the middleman in this organ harvesting trial, has been sentenced to 10 years in prison at the Old Bailey today.
Thank you so very much, Juliana Olayinka, our London bureau chief, reporting there on the breaking story out of the British capital that former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu has been sentenced to 9 years and 8 months as a result of his conviction over the organ harvesting case, which has been ongoing in the United Kingdom. His wife got, that's Beatrice, got 4 years and 6 months. And Obinna Obetin, Dr. Obinna Obetin, who is described as the middleman in the case, was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Thank you very much, Juliana, for your reporting. And so at that point, our breaking story, of course, is that Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu has received a sentence alongside his wife, Beatrice, over the organ harvesting case. They've been undergoing. The trial has been ongoing at the Old Bailey in London. For now...
Well, good evening, Kylie.
I know this is the case a lot of people have followed, not just legal practitioners, essentially people in Nigeria and outside the country, a big one. But you're a legal practitioner as well, and you're familiar, at least with the laws in the United Kingdom. So can you just help us understand, what are the facts that were decided upon today?
Well, what's the major issue I believe we need to get our attention into is basically the modern Slavery Law Act of 2015. And if you remember, the United Kingdom has been a forerunner of anti-slavery right from about two centuries ago. That's when we have the likes of Ajayi Crowther and co. And if you remember, in part of what made that law to be is that as at now, the global index rate of slavery is over 40 million. And when we talk of slavery, it is not the direct slavery with the one you use your money to buy, but in some things, some transaction are slavery in nature, and that's why we have that act. And the act, unfortunately, seem to have something we can call strict liability offense. Offense in the sense that the intent of whosoever may have committed it will not be the issue. What matters most is that it has happened. And in this matter, unfortunately, the distinguished Senator Ekweremadu has been found wanting in the sense that someone is alleged to have been taken to the UK based on the issue of his child, that is his daughter, that they need to do some organ transplant. And again, another thing we have to know quite well is that there's a difference between organ donation and organ harvesting. There's nothing wrong in doing organ donation, in donating organ. But it is like a very thin line between these two concepts. That is organ donation and organ harvesting. Harvesting seems to be transactional. There must be some issues, and that can be. And when it turns to organ harvesting, it is a crime, and it falls under this Modern Slavery Act. Quite unfortunate, like I do say, any issue that has to do with criminal liability is unfortunate. Quite unfortunate that it happened to Kremadu, because with the letters, plea of mercy, left and right, though which I believe is erroneously done in my own understanding, you can see that it is more of issue of parents trying to save the child. But unfortunately, it's something that went wrong. It's a transaction that went wrong. And law, we've been saying, is no respecter of anyone. And that is why today, Kremadu and his family is going down for it.
When you talk about those letters or clemency that were written, I mean, former President Olusegun Obasanjo wrote, where we had calls from the National Assembly, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. The IHRC also wrote, the ECOWAS Parliament wrote as well. And you say that perhaps they were done erroneously. What do you mean by that?
Well, in my own opinion, I believe it was done erroneously, because what we have to know is this. There is thin line between interferencing with the smooth running of courts and writing letters. Yes, there's allocators, there's always a plan for that. And Kremadu has his own lawyer. My understanding is that if there must be such letter, you don't need to turn it to rooftop advocacy, particularly when there's a pending case. And to me, it is more like interference. The best way to do it is that since Kremadu has his legal team, whatsoever may be the letter to show that he has a very good character, which I believe in, should be sent to the lawyer. And during the time when the lawyer will ask for that, maybe the judge should temper justice with mercy, that is when such kind of issue need to be raised. But to take to the public when the matter is going on, and don't forget, this is the UK where judge don't let me use pardon me with using that word, don't give a damn is what is happening on the street, what is happening in the public. It is what is before the court that will be. And I want to believe that this is like a carryover of what our politicians are doing. A matter will be in court, and instead for us to allow the judge to do the case at their feet, we take to the street, we turn ourselves to another judge, passing judgment, passing comment, and we should not be. To me, that should not be. And now, and I think I need to make another suggestion. Now that Kremadu has been sentenced and has been sentenced, the best way, this is an auspicious time to do that. Tomorrow, King Charles III will be coronated as the King of England, as the head of state. There is what is called royal prerogative for pardon. And I believe anybody that wants to write letter, anybody that wants to make plea for Kremadu, this is the best time to ask the sovereign of the United Kingdom, that's His Majesty, King Charles III, to do the writing to pardon Kremadu. The precedent has been there since as far back as 1717. King George did the same, 2003, to even as very close to 2021. The same thing has been happening. Sovereign can do that, and I believe that is the plea we need to be making for Kremadu, not to be writing and to be interfering with the conduct of the court.
I wonder as well, the talk about even diplomatic options. I know that talk, there could be some sort of conversation through that route, diplomacy. Is it that diplomacy also doesn't work when it comes to issues of the courts?
I think we're having two issues there, because I remember many people has been making the issue that Kremadu being the being the number four person being of his office as the deputy senate president, maybe he has some issue of diplomatic passport. But I want to believe that by the law, carrying diplomatic passport is different from whether you are covered by the Diplomatic Immunity and Privileges Act, as the one in UK and every other places. This one has to be with consular officer. It doesn't have to be a diplomat. So the issue is this: can we say the Kremadu is a diplomat to be so covered with such privileges and immunity? That's another thing. But I believe states do have a channels in discussing this diplomatically. If that is what you are talking about, I think Nigeria needs to do that. And I want to believe that Nigeria is doing that, because I remember it got to a point that one has to contact the High Commissioner to really find out what they are doing about the Kremadu. Though I know this is not a subject of public discussion. I know Nigeria must be doing something. But again, like I say, this is going to be one of the first time such conviction will have that. And you know, in most of those countries, they are targeting. The higher the profile, the higher it will be discussed. The higher it's discussed, the higher everybody seems to know about it. And the more people are known about it is to deter others from doing the same thing. Just so unfortunate, it has to be a Kremadu, somebody I have respect for, somebody I call a friend, with a PhD holder in law, that this is happening to. But like I said, law is no respecter of anyone. And what is the main as of today, I don't think, though I'm not speaking as his lawyer, because I don't even know the strategy the lawyer is doing with the next step. Maybe they are going to appeal. But to me, what I think that needs to be done is to focus and to make it a high premium. Good enough. There's a good mood. Unfortunately, there's good mood in the United Kingdom, being in the coronation of the King Charles III. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we are not. I don't think that mood, we can say the mood in Nigeria is good now. So, and I believe one of the first acts, I think, let me use this opportunity though I've even sent a letter to the king to see a way how he can exercise that royal prerogative for pardon, and that it can be done. He has that prerogative, and it's a royal prerogative that can be done. That I believe Nigerian president, good enough, President Muhammadu Buhari is in the UK. Very sure he must see the King Charles tonight or tomorrow, and I believe that must provide an opportunity to speak about one of Nigerian officials to see that there must be a way out, particularly not on the fact that what he did is wrong or wrong, but the intention. Though when it comes to strict liability offense, nobody care about whether the intention, but we need to know that every parent will do the same thing, and based on that, there must be a way to ensure that at least conviction alone is even enough. Once you are conviction, particularly in the UK, I know what it is. Conviction sometimes is more greater than even sentencing. That's punishing anyone. There are many people that will be convicted that will not be punished, because what matters most is that concept, that issue that so person have been convicted. But there is always a way out. With this sense of prerogative of mercy, King Charles III has the prerogative, and it can be done tomorrow, can be done next tomorrow, but I believe Kremadu is due for that, and I think we should all come raise with one voice to ask for this. And I believe, after all, Nigerian government do give all these prerogative of mercy sometimes to some people, and I think if there must be anybody that's so qualified for that, I think it's a Kremadu. That is what I think we should focus on, and that's what we should ask for.
Well, some have also talked about legal options available. I don't know if you could give some insight into that one as well, especially because
the legal option available, like I said, the UK law has its own tier, like Nigeria. If you remember, we take it from the UK. We have the High Court, which is the court of first instance, which has just delivered judgment today and passed the sentence today. And after that, we have the Court of Appeal before the Supreme Court. There are still other options. It depends on reading the judgment, and to say it is, I must confess, I'm here to really read the judgment. The only thing is to watch what the judge was saying. Watching is different from when you dissect to review the judgment to know where there's any lapses. So one may not know whether the legal team of a Kremadu will proceed to the Court of Appeal or go to the Supreme Court as it is. And for me, I'm sure nobody's asking for my opinion when it comes to that, but there's still some other option. But ask me as a private citizen, and what I think will be is what I believe would be the fastest, which is due for considering. Even today, you can see what the judge even mentioned, that his character is so perfect. There is no issue about that. It is just something that is so unfortunate, and it could happen to anybody. We have to be sincere. I know many people, we don't even need to look at this position. It could happen to anybody. I know what it means, modern law. My mother may do the same thing. And I know if my father is alive, if any of his children is having this issue, may take that too. These are the things we need to be sure about. It's just unfortunate that he may not really understand the way it works there. And I believe both the UK government and the courts, they are right on their own to do what they did today. But there must be a way out, and I believe that is what we should.
A lot of people have talked about maybe lessons to be learned from this. I mean, it started as far back as June. Even this whole process started before that, before the police announced the arrest. What are the lessons to take away from this, maybe for Nigeria, the judiciary, across board?
Well, from the perception of that case, of that matter, a lot of lessons to be had, to be learned. Are we going to talk about the way the case is investigated? Even right from the beginning, you can see that it took the UK police, that Metropolitan Police, before even mentioning the name of Ekemadu, not in Nigeria. I think that is a lesson to Nigerian police, that when you are doing your investigation, you don't go overboard. You don't turn it to media trial. Do a very comprehensive, serious investigation and come out with your result at the end of the day. And apart from that, I think I was in the court once or twice, and you can see from the beginning, you can see the solemnity, you can see the way everybody conduct themselves in a proper manner. Not you see people carrying billboard shouting, and you see not everybody going to the media, castigating the judge and saying all sort of thing the way we used to do here. And I believe that is the carryover when you see some people writing letter to the court to say we'll do away with the case. And apart from that, it's just shown us that the law is no respecter of anyone. That the law will do its course, will take its course, even if ever must fall. Irrespective of your office, irrespective of your station in life, irrespective of how highly pleased you are. The judge even mentioned it, that this man is well known, his office is high, everything. But despite that, the law still takes its course. And that's what I believe all Nigerians should take home. And we should pray that our country too will find a way where we believe in the law, we believe in our judiciary, we believe in the system. The police, you can see, no one tried to subvert the system. Like somebody mentioned yesterday that I didn't mean that this happened in Nigeria, Ekemadu will have set free. And I told him it is not the court that will set him free, but the system, particularly even the investigator. You see in the country where even the IPO, that's the investigating police officer, will even be telling the victim of the crime, will be telling him you cannot do this, and will be cajoling them and forcing them to recount their statement. It is so sad, but there are many lessons to be learned, and that is part of it. That once you do things right, it is to cure some issue. Like I said, today in this whole world, global index of slavery over 40 million. I'm sure this case we has already bring to fore the slavery in different dimensions that it is, and this is a way to cure it. So when it comes to, even you find out that by the time you read that Slavery Act, that's Modern Slavery Act of 2015, you find out that even transaction, some kind of employment now, the way it is being counted, the way the employment agreement, that even can fall under the Modern Slavery Act. And I believe this is the way that Nigeria, particularly with their own peculiarity, right, need to have such kind of law, to have modern slavery, because you can see the way even employment, and more particularly by employment and compensation of